Okay, so to be clear, I don't like being homeless. It's not a fun time. Um, I felt a sense of responsibility because I had been living out of my car for almost 4 years, and hardly anybody knew it because of the way I maintained myself. And I felt guilt for that because I felt like I was trying to appeal to a sense of privilege that I didn't actually have, and it just ended up making it like my truth convoluted. Because I mean, not really. Like when people find out, they're like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know what people think. I have no idea what people think, really. A lot of people say a lot of things, but then like act totally different. So I don't know. Um, but yeah, as it was, I did a good job of, you know, portraying myself as if I was in a better position than I was. I always kept myself up. I always spent my money, on like washing my clothes and um, getting stuff to wash myself with, even more than food. And I don't do drugs, so have been able to have money, as long as I was maintaining working. It was a lot harder to maintain working with my dogs, obviously, living in the car, because I couldn't just leave them in the car for extended periods of time, especially not just at all, but fucking like in the heat or anything, or the cold. So yeah, I mean, it was always a really rough time, and I didn't really feel like I had support, but it was also because I wasn't like reaching out to people. I don't know, and the people that I felt like were closest to me, um, just didn't really support me. I had, a lot of like people close to me that were actively not supporting me, that were trying to bring me down, and like they know who they are. I don't know. It's not like a thing. It's just that's how it was. Sorry, bugs. So yeah, it's not. It's not like. I mean, fucking Christ. Like thinking about the times that I've been homeless. Like first, I was sleeping out on the rocks at the lake shore, Lake Michigan in Kenosha. And I would wake up at like 4 o'clock every morning because either the fishermen would be there. Normally it was that the fishermen were out, but sometimes even by that point the tide would be so high that it would like splash me with cold water. And so I'd wake up just like getting splashed with cold water, but it was kind of nice, kind of fun. Um, I don't know. And then I like lived in my car with this dude and my dog for first like a week and a half or so, maybe 2 weeks, and then lived in his house in Baltimore with his parents. I was fucked up. Um, in its own right, it was a gift as well, and I'm thankful for it, but it was fucked up. And I don't know. Then I came back, stayed with my parents, couldn't fucking handle it. There was so much going on at that time. Went back to Baltimore, came back, was just not okay. Um, Ended up living in Kenosha, ended up living back in my car for a minute, and then back at my parents again, and then back to Kenosha, and then, no, that was before Baltimore. Anyways, so I've just been I've been homeless a lot, and things were crazy, even in the situations where I wasn't homeless. But the times that I've been homeless have definitely been like low points, where I just like pretended that they weren't and handled myself the way that I did. Continued working my jobs and shit, doing the best that I could, or just kind of like isolated so much that nobody knew. But um, I don't know, by this last time, so like, not this last time, back in 2020, I had moved out of my ex's house officially, because like, I was finally moving on. I was always just going back to his house. So I had moved out, had my own place. It was like my own place for real. But it was just month to month. And so there was a point where I got a 30-day notice, as did everybody else, because they wanted to renovate. So I tried to find a place. I was working as a maid at the time. I tried to find a place to move with my dogs and I, but couldn't find a place. So I ended up in my car. At that point, I had to quit my job. And so I took what paycheck I had at that point, and we happened to then get the stimulus at the same time. And so I had like $2,000, which was more than enough for me to live off of for quite some time. So I went to California because I was like, fuck this place. I'm not happy here. I'm not going to rebuild here. If I'm starting from the bottom up, I might as well go do it somewhere I actually want to be. And I'd already been networking to go out to LA for a long time. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go out to LA finally. But it was post-COVID and everything was really fucked up. And because I was coming from out of state, especially Wisconsin, I was not treated very nicely, or just not very welcomed. I wasn't very welcomed, because of COVID and how differently our states handled it, and just people's fear of it. And yeah, so like, things were way harder than I anticipated them being. And I handled it all right. That time around, I don't know. I ended up going back to Wisconsin at one point. I guess just because, I don't know, I was there for a couple months, and then I was in LA for a couple months, and then just couldn't like get on my feet, I guess. So I still had money left, and I went back to Wisconsin, and didn't have much money left. I just had enough to get back to Wisconsin. I guess that's what it was. I think I came upon a point where I had just enough money to get back to Wisconsin, or enough money to like, I wasn't comfortable there. In LA. I didn't know how I was going to make it work. Anyway, so I went back to Wisconsin. I stayed with my other brother. And I went to Seattle. Then I went back down to California. So it was one of those, I think from Seattle, I had called, I guess it was from Seattle. So it must have been the first time. The first time I called the shelter. Oh, because I'd already driven out there. I don't know, that's weird. At one point in time, I had called the shelter out there and was like, hey, I'd like to volunteer if I could have a space to stay. And they were like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, well, I'm going to be coming from out of state. And I have my dogs. My dog. Both my dogs, obviously. And so I was like, it's like, let me, or if I can work or whatever, if I can still stay. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. So I went there, and then they were like, oh, no, actually, we can't take you because you're from out of state, and like all of COVID and everything. It's like, what the hell? So I like couldn't even work there. I couldn't stay there. And I had spent all the rest of my money to get back there, thinking that I'd be able to kind of build from there up, and suddenly I wasn't able to. And I ended up in like a McDonald's parking lot for a fucking month. Literally like a month, because I didn't have any money, and I didn't want to beg for any of it. And I wasn't allowed to put up a sign So I was just like kind of like, and I was so nervous about like talking to people because so many people in the town were like just like junkies. So many people were homeless because it was like that's why I'd gone there because it's like where the homeless community is, and they have the shelter or whatever. But it was just a really like not good area really, and it wasn't the worst. It was whatever. I handled myself. It was fine. Um, but at the same time, shit got weird. Shit was weird, and it's really hard. I mean, I didn't eat for a long time. I made sure that I got my dog's food, and I just had saved up points on my McDonald's app, so I was able to get a free burger every once in a while. But I would like try to save it and only eat like once a week or whatever, which was hard. It's easier just to like spend what I had. And the point that in the points, it was hard for me to like make it last. Um, and then I just went without for a while, and ended up meeting this old dude who started talking to me about Sasquatch out of nowhere when I was at the gas station. I was going to get some water. He started talking to me about Sasquatch, and then he started talking to me about UFOs. And then I was like talking to him about how I was traveling, and he, trying to make money or whatever. And he offered to let me help him with his contracting job, where he was gonna have to put in a countertop. And so I went and helped him put in the countertop. And then he started getting kind of weird. He like insisted upon dinner, and I paid for it out of what he paid me for helping him. But I like insisted upon it, and he was like very unhappy about that. And then he was like very insistent that I should come stay back at his house with his wife and daughter. But he was like, it's like 2 hours north, and I was like, well, I was actually headed south. And he's like, well, I really think that it's better that you just stay at a really nice place that has all these things. And I was like, oh no, it's fine. And he just like, I don't know, he just like, I didn't know how to stand up for myself as well as I do now. And I don't know, so I just started like following him to his house, and I kept trying to evade him, and he kept like following me back and being like, oh hey, I noticed that you tried to turn around there or whatever. I don't know, it was really weird, and I felt like I couldn't get away from him. And so then I literally got to his house. It was like in the middle of fucking nowhere up in Northern California, and like just in the woods, like in the fucking, like deep in the fucking woods, like no service. All the stars are beautiful. For fucking serious, the Sasquatch is out there, and there's aliens out there for sure. But it felt really fucking weird, and I remember just thinking like, this dude is gonna fucking kill me. And he like was like, let me go inside and tell my wife that you're here. See if my daughter's up or whatever. See if I can prepare something for you. Prepare like a bed, make a bed up for you or whatever. And then I'll be ready to back out. And so we went in, and I remember just feeling like super crazy and just being like, I need to get out of here. I just had the worst vibes. I just felt really, really creeped out. So I left. I just sped out of there. And I drove with my lights off down these country roads up until I got into the town, which was like, maybe 7 miles out or so. And then I turned my lights on, got on the highway, and just kept driving until I literally was too tired to drive anymore. Pulled over into one of those, like, in California they have a whole bunch of pull-offs, and fell asleep. Woke up to a sheriff asking me if he was like, he was like, oh, it's fine that you sleep here. I just want to make sure that you were alive, because a lot of people come out here and, like, it's so desolate, like, or not desolate, but, like, so, like, I don't remember what he said, like, so, like, essentially, like, out in the boonies, like, so far away from anything that, like, people will come out there to, like, kill themselves, essentially, or, like, sort of deal. So he just want to make sure I was alive. And it's like, golly. He's like, sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. You think, but I can sleep. Leaving everyone. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was scary. But it was whatever. I did stay there because I knew that dude wasn't going to be able to find me. But at the same time, I was kind of nervous because I was like, it is just like a one way in, one way out sort of deal. So that was wild. And then, I ended up going to work at this farm, pot farm, um, which, what I didn't apply for that or anything. I was having a hard time making any more money. So this was one time or maybe two times. I don't remember. Maybe one time's the first time and the second time is the second time. I don't remember. But I met this girl. It was in the same town, and this girl was like driving a fucking bus that was full of dogs. It was purple. I was like, "Who is this bitch?" And she came out of Starbucks, and so I started talking to her. She was like, "Yeah, well," she was like super pregnant. She was wearing this green velvet dress. It's real pretty. She was like, "I'm." Uh, I was just working up at this farm, but I had to leave because I'm too pregnant to work. She's like, "Have you ever worked at a pot farm?" I was like, "Oh, no." She's like, "Would you?" I was like, "Yeah, I would." She's like, "Well, I can call them and see if you can take the position that I had." And I was like, "Fucking yeah. Hell yeah." So she did, and they said that I could, as long as, they met me and everything seemed okay. So she took me and we went up to the mountain, and it was like fucking up a mountain in Humboldt County, like 2 miles up, 2.5 miles up or so. And beautiful. They had I think he said 40 acres. Um, it's just I mean, the whole area is just so gorgeous. Everywhere is just so gorgeous. And the nearest towns are at least an hour away or so. And you know, they're tiny and it's just kind of crazy. Well, I'm pretty sure the city, town, other area was I don't know, man. It might have been 2 hours away, really. Because you have to go through all these mountains. I don't know. It's beautiful, really, really incredible, and that was an incredible experience. Um, but also, as I was going into it, I was like, oh my god, I don't know any of these people, and I'm just going to this farm, and these people could kill me if they wanted to, and nobody would know. Going up to the mountains. Um, I hadn't heard anything about. It was funny because it wasn't until after I'd already established myself and felt comfortable there, and I told people, a couple people where I was, and they were like, "You're on Murder Mountain." I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Which I wasn't, for the record, but apparently that's just a thing that people think about Humboldt County, is that everybody dies when they go there. I don't know. I had a great time. I had a great time. But then I had to leave for spiritual reasons. And there was just I was, you know, very intimately involved in the family, and that ran the farm, and just got to the point where we had to kind of break off a little bit. Um, right. So then I went back to Wisconsin, and then I went to Seattle. I don't remember. I know that when I got back, yeah, when I got back from Seattle, I was planning on going to my storage unit and taking everything out of my storage unit, but selling as much as I could, and just getting rid of my storage unit. And so I knew that it was going to take a minute, but then I planned that I could use that money to go back to California. My plan was just keep going back to California until I could make it work. Um, and when I got to Wisconsin, I was going to my storage unit, and while I was cleaning stuff out, spending the day there back and forth, driving back and forth, there was this giant plot of grass behind Walmart that I would always take the dogs to because they could run around off leash. Um, so we were back there, and there's these railroad tracks, and I don't know, my little dog, my littlest dog, uh, got off of her. I mean, she wasn't on her leash at first, but then I had them on their leashes, and we were walking around, and she got off her leash, and so I started calling at her, and she got nervous and scared. So then I I mean, I don't know. At first I just started like chasing her to try to catch her. But then like as she went around the corner and like towards the railroad tracks, I started like yelling her name again. She got really scared, so then she just like took off super fast and took off down the fucking railroad tracks and literally got hit by a train. I don't have to go into details, but she got hit by a train and survived. Um, with she had a really massive concussion, and her leg was absolutely shattered. Um, but she had to get the leg amputated after 5 days on brain medication and like in the ICP or ICP, the ICP, in the ICU of the fucking emergency vet. That was a whole time, but she survived. She survived, and she completely recovered with just without the leg. She's so strong and so powerful and so incredible. So incredible. I'm not trying to get emotional right now. People around make me feel weird. But yeah, so that was fucking hard. So then I moved in with my ex's sister, who offered to let me stay so that I could have somewhere for Lily to heal, because I was living on my car at the time. And that was in exchange for cleaning and hanging out with the kids. And then she got me a job with one of her old clients doing hospice care. That was real nice. And so I did that for a while. But then things kind of broke down when I started talking about my sexuality to her more intimately. It's like she was my ex's sister, and I'd known them for like 6 years, 5 years at this point. But I like jokingly or like, what kind of like seriously, like had just like mentioned something about like being trans to what, to some degree, and just having like I said something about, she was like, what? And I like told her about like having gender dysphoria and like learning how to accept myself, and like I don't know, it was weird because it's not like I was like doing anything different or acting any way different than she had known me for years. She just couldn't handle what I was saying at all. Like she got really upset and was like, I don't want you to ever talk to my kids about this shit. I don't ever want them to hear any of this. Like, you can keep that to your fucking self. It's like, okay. She was like, not happy about it. And things just kind of broke down from that point to like, I don't know. There's just a lot of shit happening. So I went back into my car, and then a really good friend of mine saw that I was in need and asked his partner because his partner was staying with him, so he asked them if I could stay at their apartment where they were like, essentially they had been staying, but now they were staying with him, and they were like, absolutely. So without even knowing me, they let me stay at their place where they weren't staying, because they were staying with my friend, which was incredibly kind, so incredibly generous and incredibly kind. And I continued doing hospice care until my client had passed while living there. And then once my client had passed, I moved out of there because I wasn't able to have my dogs there. So I moved out of there, and then the money that I had made, I was able to get an apartment, but it was like at this renovated bed and breakfast. And so I moved in there with the dogs. That was a really wonderful time, for so many reasons. I was doing landscaping at the time too, and doing live-in caregiving. And it just got to the point, there was a conflict of interest, honestly, when it came to the caregiving, but there was also like, it was really weighing on me to do the landscaping and the caregiving, to the extent that I was, and I really enjoyed the landscaping more at the time, and it was paying my bills. It was actually paying my bills. So when there was that conflict of interest, it just kind of broke things down. I ended up moving out of there. And from there, I went down to Florida because I had been talking to this dude for like the entire year. And it's somebody that I used to date back when I was 19. And uh, I was like, okay, well, I'm willing to give this a more like invested uh, go. But he was like very adamant about committing right away, and I was like trying to get him to slow down about it. And my intent was to move down there nearer to him, but not like in with him, so that we could like actually have an work out the actual relationship. But instead, within a week, he was like just trying to get me pregnant, getting me to meet his family, and talking about marriage. And I was like, I can't handle the shit. Can't handle the shit. So and it was like, I don't know, I'd been heartbroken at the time prior and was like not on the rebound. I was like really trying to give this an actual open go, but like, I don't know. I was just, my feelings were hurt already, so like I was still sensitive, and it was way too forceful. It was just too much. And I don't know. It was a lot. Um, so from there, I decided to go to Texas. And I was like, well, all those old connections I made in LA moved to Austin, so I might as well take advantage. And I moved to Austin, and I was living on my car for, I don't know, maybe like a month or something. Ow. When maybe it wasn't even that long. When I well, I mean, I'd made friends with multiple people that had offered to let me stay with them, but I contacted an old friend who had been somebody I thought was a friend it was somebody that I thought was a friend because I forgot, like, I didn't realize, like, the way that the dynamic of the relationship worked way back when. They'd just been around forever, and, you know, so that made me think that they were a friend. They're very friendly. But the fact of the matter was that there always was, like, a weird thing between us for some reason. I didn't notice it back then, but, like, the way that they were with my brother seemed fine. I felt like we always had a good time when it was my brother. But then, like, they made out with my ex-husband on our first date, and, like, he was always calling me their name. He was always calling me their name, and, like, I don't know. It was weird. It was just weird because, like, yeah, there's a lot of, like, weird stuff like that. And then, like, while I was living with them, I just started noticing, like, things that I consider to be red flags, which, like, were fine for other people, and that's fine. Like, I'm not trying to judge people, but, like, when it comes to my own personal space too, like, they were opening their personal space to me, but I also wanted to protect my personal space from, like, certain types of, energies. And I don't know, I just started noticing a lot of issues. So got to the point where I was like, I'm just gonna get out of here, and I'm gonna move all my shit back into my car, because they were, like, threatening to call the cops because I wouldn't follow their rules. And I was like, we're grown adults, like, treat me with respect and you will get respect in return, but fuck you for the way you're treating me right now. Like, I'm trying my hardest. Just give me some fucking time to, like, I wasn't even asking for time, like, days. I was literally, like, she was, like, demanding while I was at fucking work to communicate a conversation to her, and was, like, being really demeaning about it. And I was like, bro, I am literally in the middle of, like, 5 different things. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, hold on. She's like, I'm gonna call the cops and they're gonna be here when you go. Sorry, I don't mean to be like that. I still have a lot of shit that I have to get out, for sure. But, like, I don't. Like, it's all just about a release, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm in a different place now where I, like, don't have to process shit that way. Or I'm not choosing to. And that was kind of the whole point of like this time that I came out. Um, well, let's see. So then I was in Austin, but then like my grandma died, and I'd been estranged from my family for a long time. I tried to have a relationship with them, reestablish a relationship again with them last year or the year before last, like the year before last. Um, but had found that I just didn't like relate to them the way that I they hoped that I would, or that I guess I don't know. I didn't necessarily hope that I would. I wish that I had a good relationship with but not them. Like just with a family. I wish I had my own family. I have my dog, whom I miss all the time, nonstop. I had to put my other dog down this year. Um, but yeah, so I'd been estranged from my family, and I got a call, which like I hadn't had phone service on for a long time, so I hadn't like I have no idea what I was getting or what I wasn't getting. Also, like I had my mom blocked, so I like wasn't